Hi, thank you for joining us for today's webinar, where we'll be talking with one of the leaders in global communication and technology about their journey of digital transformation that is taking them really beyond support to drive customer experience. The business world of today is one that has been reshaped and then reshaped again by the internet, by mobile, by social. It's very unscripted, unpredictable, and uncontrollable, and customers don't just consume, they mold, they promote, they advocate and criticize, sometimes with equal and forceful power. And there are those who really yearn for the world that once was, who would rather put everything kind of back into its very defined box on its predictable path. And then there are those who really see opportunity to transform their business by putting customers at the heart of everything that they do. And in an unenterprise world, companies really only have one choice. They either embrace digital transformation or obsolescence. At Sprinklr, we have the privilege of really partnering with some of the world's most innovative and transformative brands. And one of those partners is Verizon. And Verizon has really transformed the way that it delivers value by putting customers at the center of everything that they do. And it's this kind of tenacity that's really fueling success in a very highly competitive industry. And so joining us today is Ken Madrigal, Senior Social and Digital Experience Strategist at Verizon. And I'm so excited for those of you who are joining us on today's webinar, because the way Ken and his team are thinking about digital transformation and collaborating to explore emerging methods and really practices that modify customer behavior and perceptions is extremely powerful. So Ken, welcome. And if it's okay with you, I'm going to go ahead and pass the presenter role over to you so that you can give us a quick intro to your role and tell us a little bit more about the work that you guys are doing at Verizon.
Great. Thank you, Christy. Can you see my screen yet? I'll take that. Really quick. All right. So, Christy, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Great. Well, thank you, everyone, for joining me and Christy on this webinar and taking time out of your day so we can talk about some of the innovative approaches that we're doing at Verizon related to how we see digital, how we see our strategy, and then how it affects the overall digital footprint, which not only just includes social, of course, but other practices within my scope, like digital communities, chat, our bot program, virtual agent, and then other digital footprints that connect with, Verizon, from the website to the mobile devices, to tablets, and also to, what we see with the connected home, with the set-top boxes there, and the actual hardware that, you deal with day in and day out that connects you to one another from an internet and integrated digital standpoint. So let me talk about my tenure and role at Verizon, really. It's going to provide this foundation of our discussion today on the approaches we're taking for digital and digital experience and how we make that world-class. So I think the first thing that everybody realizes is that Verizon is this monster of a company. When I joined, I didn't realize kind of the depth and breadth of all the different types of lines of business that it is. It's not just telecom or digital cable internet. It crosses everything from, different industries like healthcare, energy, automotive, and especially with our acquisitions of Yahoo and AOL recently, that's now converted into, the subsidiary called Oath. It's really turned into a larger technology play across the board. And it being like $29 billion in Q1 in revenues, it's just huge. But part of that is that with a company in this realm that touches digital, the internet, the things that folks do day in and day out, we're under constant disruption from the external world and especially disruption internally, because we want to keep up with how customers want to engage with a brand. And so in 2013, I joined Verizon in their corporate transformation group, especially around digital and social practices, both internal and external. And what that meant for me was that my scope was any platform, policy, process were applicable, turn them into a consistent enterprise across enterprise-wide, practice, right? Hence, where I ended up connecting with Sprinklr was that I was the lead that pulled social from an external standpoint, for our company to select Sprinklr as the enterprise platform, and then my implementation team took it across all the business units. So between 70-plus stakeholders, 20-plus teams, we engaged our entire business to do a full migration that took nearly a year to get this platform standard across the entire breadth of the company. So that really brings me to my discussion today. After getting this enterprise social practice in place, I got this choice to still be with the transformation group because there's still a lot of work to be done there, but really also join the front line and see what all my transformative work around social and making practices from a social standpoint, how that translated to really engaging with customers, in a real-time sense. So in 2016, I joined FiOS. I joined the FiOS division, and I joined as the digital assisted strategy lead. So what's that mean? That means social engagement around communities, social platforms like Twitter and Facebook, digital chat, virtual agent, and operationalizing our artificial intelligence and bot program fell into my core scope. So when I saw how we were connecting those digital assisted practices together under one charter, I saw that as something that was not being done in other places, or at least being very specific to FiOS as a leading brand for experience. And it was this holistic approach that I thought was incredibly compelling. And it wasn't just digital assisted that I was talking about. The entire FiOS organization itself was being redesigned to actually put an operating model together so that we could put a cutting-edge experience in front of our customers that was, led through digital. So this was the vision of our VP of Digital, Miguel Quiroga, that he was putting into place just as I was joining. And, it was a practical way that we could do it internally so that we could live to see what we would do externally. So how do you do that? So for us in Verizon FiOS, it started with this mantra, driven by our VP. It's like digital practice, or the digital practice and experience was the leading indicator for success. And digital was that vehicle to fill that promise, right? And we didn't come to this mantra lightly, because reorganizing around, this mantra, there isn't a playbook for it, right? There was nothing out there from a best practice that we could follow to get us there. So we really had to take a hard look at what was happening. And we first took a look at how experience itself was evolving. So if you look in the recent past all the way to the near term and near-term future of what's happening with experience, we see only 3 to 5 years ago that this shock to the system, where mobile and social really started taking hold with, folks day in and day out, but specifically digital experience could really be portable. And not only just portable, with social, it could be very, very personalized. So it's personalized and wherever we want it through platforms like a Facebook and Twitter. That real-timeness was just starting with us, in 2010 and on. A shock to everyone of how quickly that was adopted, and just adapting, your organization to meet those needs that are there. And what's that driven us today is that where many brands are from 2014 up until now, it's like we're now at this point where, digitalized experience is what's king. And when we say digital experience, it's really about connecting what you do in a personalized way. So how is it that our services, from a customer profile standpoint, we know that at any given moment when a customer wants to interact with us on demand, that we can, see who they are, what have they bought with us, what products they are, what their preferences are, and from a speed standpoint and ease standpoint, we can have that engaging conversation. So a lot of companies still are to this day working towards connecting that CRM, as part of the front end way, even at at their bricks and mortars or at the agent, register level, just to have that engagement right then and there. And so that's what we're working with. And you're combining that now with what's happening on demand with mobile and social as well, so personalized and transportable. So what we see is moving on from today into even to the near future, going forward, it's really digital being part of your life. So like, as it is part of portable, it's not just a destination where people go to a store or they go to a website. It's actually living with them on their day-to-day, whether they be at home or whether they be on the move. When they look up an experience, you're right there with them as a brand in whatever channels they're picking, digital channels, because it is so seamless. So meeting that evolution is what we've been working at. So which really, shakes it up for us a bit from an organization standpoint, because, this is not something that's been practically designed in traditional organizations today. So we have to kind of rebuild how we do things and move to what we've been always calling this digital experience first team. So this is kind of a peek into looking under the hood of how we're doing it at Verizon. So how do we get there? Well, it's really working towards how we've done digital engagement in the past and how we're looking at it today and going into the future, right? Almost like 3 stages again. So up until recently, right, our engagement for digital was really around looking at it as a channel. So you had all these traditional ways to connect with your customer, whether it be print, whether it be television, radio, all sorts of ways from a standard, what we understand is engaging with a customer, to digital as a choice, right? And as part of the mix, digital was selected as something that could be an option or not. And then moving into where we are into 2015 and 2017 today, digital isn't a choice. It has to be that integrated way that you touch a customer, especially with the customer information that's available. Now, it's really digital as a product, right? More not of a channel selection, but as a product. When I say a product, it's that idea of the digital front door. Let's create a destination for our website with our mobile app that people can visit, right? And as part of that, we have all that seamless integration with our back end to know who they are as a customer and provide a personalized experience that's happening in real time, right? And that's them going to us. But, again, that isn't going to last for long because we see it. We see it with what we term as like this struggle with the idea of burden of choice. And when I say burden of choice, it's like there's going to be a point where we have just too many apps, out there. We already have too many websites. We're having to visit so many different things to get our digital experience. So what ends up happening is really more about experience or digital experience as a service, where our customers, regardless of what they choose, your brand better be there. So, when I say burden of choice, you kind of think about it like back in, 1980, 1990, having 2,000 channels was a status symbol. Flip to the millennia, that becomes a burden. It becomes noise, right? So how do we simplify that for folks? Right? How do we get it now down to this contextualized viewing that we see on your television, where it's I want to watch sports, I want to watch it live, it has to be college. It's all contextualized right down to where you needed to select it right down to the team. It's a lot easier when you think about that as an experience, right? We do that as a brand. We overwhelm our customers with here it's the website, it's social, it's chat, it's community. You can get through search. It's all these different ways that you can touch a brand. So how do we get it to more of a service where if they pick, hey, it's Alexa, I don't have to go to several apps to get my experience. If I want to, go to do one thing, I can go to one place and do it. And so that's what we're all ultimately thinking about, this year and beyond. And how do you transform to meet that as an organization? I think a big question with this is, you're talking a lot about approach and philosophy, but why did digital experience matter for us in the first place at the bottom line? I think that's a big question for a lot of brands, because doing this transformative pivot and radical change, it's expensive, it's time consuming. Again, and there's a lot of strategy and thought that go into it, and you don't want to do it wrong at the first time, so you got to know it's worth it. So what we did, at least from a FIOS standpoint, is that we took a look at what we defined as digital experience, like social, like the website, where customers digitally engage with us. And we collected all the KPIs and results that happened through that. And you know what we found? This is what we found, at least for Files. We found that folks, when they were a digital customer within a time frame, they helped themselves more. They self-served more on our website. They churned less. That means they didn't leave us as easily once they had the service. They had a greater RCM, and for us, RCM is this greater spend. So we made it easy for them to, go and get transactional, experiences from us on our digital properties, and it made them buy more, whether it be content, whether it be accessories, right? And they adopted our products more easily, right? So when we launched something new, they resonated with it, and because we were making it a simple process and we were very transparent on how you get from one service to the other, or how you were changing something, or you were getting something, delivered to you, it made it easier for folks to adopt us when they used it through, some digital app or some digital experience. And then finally, they had a greater affinity to our rewards program. So we put these loyalty programs in play, and we drove them through our app, and through our website, almost exclusively, so that they're able to see what they're getting for benefit. And again, that made it a greater stickiness for folks, and they had this higher affinity, higher adoption rate of it. So we're saying all these major KPIs on revenue, churn, maintaining our customer base, all surrounded around digital. The causation might not be perfect, but the correlation was so close that we were investing, hands down to do this.
That's so Ken, I think that's really interesting. I love the way that you actually went through that justification or identification of customer behavior and the experience as a strategic, priority, as a way to actually validate that digital customer experience is relevant across the business. And I think for many of those listening on the call today, those are going to really resonate too, whether the behaviors being impacted regarding their engagement efforts are rewards and loyalty, or product adoption, or increased spend, or reducing churn, or self-service. I think that's really key there, is that those behaviors are going to resonate with those of you on the webinar today as well. So with that, now that we kind of know what it's like as a digital organization from that perspective, can you take the next few minutes and tell us about the impact that's had on the customer's journey with Verizon? Sure.
That really gets into, and I can really speak to my world and a little bit about, what's under the hood in our digital division. So when you think about my charter and scope within the FiOS world, it's this digital assisted practice. And I was saying earlier, I thought it incredibly compelling that we here have pulled these disciplines together: chat, social, community, this digital assisted practice. Not so much self-service, but either a human or some type of agent of some sort, whether it be a person or a virtual agent or a machine back there, helping a customer through a particular, transaction or need for information, right? So, that in and of itself, connecting it together was very compelling. But I thought was also very interesting, that was very edgy, was that how the whole group operates from the digital division. So, when you think about what we have in terms of some of our main portions of the digital group itself, the digital experience group itself within FiOS, it really falls into these categories, right? So, there's the digital assisted program that I run with the four disciplines there, but we also have digital demand, so driving customers through it from a digital standpoint, to our sites, right? Online sales, online support experiences, the mobile app. And that also includes both content as well as how you manage your profile, right, your digital profile. An innovation group, so just a group that is looking for new experiences, being on the edge, and bringing those from just concept to actual BAU, right? And then what we also term is digital awareness, right? So you might build all these experiences, but you have to get the word out and be able to see how this is a value standpoint for your customers. And what's interesting about this is not just what is under the hood in digital, but how we operate with one another. It might seem, kind of easy, but we have this call it this Friday forum that we do. And what's really cool about it is that we explicitly build experiences for our customers, very true, but we also build them for each other in the digital team. And you see here, you don't see any silos in here that says marketing or customer care or PR or network or anything like that. You just see experience-related topics here because we build it for one of ourselves. And in this Friday forum, what we do is when you're about to launch a new experience, wherever you are in the digital division, you have to put it in front of your peers because all of us know it's integrated and anything upstream affects those downstream. Anything downstream that you put into market would conceivably impact folks upstream, right? And those are all customer experiences that we want to be involved with. And you might not get a vote in the final decisions for things, but in a very, very transformative and forward-thinking way, you get a voice. And those voices are heard because we work so closely with one another to make the experience better. So that in and of itself of how we work together. Now hopefully you're able to miss every meeting and the things happen, but that in itself as just a philosophical approach where you're putting it in front of your peers, you check your ego at the door and you make the experience better for your customers, has really transformed the way that we're bringing things to market. So with my world on how I'm trying to make that reality even greater for the digital assisted practice is looking at it like this, like within a customer journey map. And this is a simplified one. So in this experience map that I put in front of you, we understand the customer touch points as consumer touch points and brand touch points, things that are more related to the customer from a self-interest standpoint and things that are related to us as a company that's more self-interested. And when we think about the digital assisted practice, chat, social, community, and virtual agent bot, what we ended up mapping out and seeing in this journey is that we really existed in two key touch points. And they're big, in the buy flow where our chat team helps folks get through, any issues that they may have in terms of, buying something online or needing help to get through an experience online, right? Which many companies have. And then also, with chat and all the other disciplines, really in the manage and support, or really on the service realm of it. But what we were seeing here in my practice is that we were leaving, 4, 5, 6 touch points, we were leaving them on the table. And we were saying, hey, our experience that we have means more to us just in these 2 touch points. How do we take the value that it brings to customers that we're seeing there and put it into the other places and give them additional value? And not only just additional value, but make it interconnected so that the experience tends to be seamless, where you start in one place and you feel like you're still having a very personalized conversation with those that you had in another place, right? So, we were seeing that we had value in these touch points here. We were able to see and buy that we were influencing sales, like I said, in manage and support, that we had these service transactions, interactions. We were doing transfers with our wireless team, in managed support that we were able to do through the Sprinklr platform and, transferring different types of engagements in social with one another. And then what was really interesting, our NPS scores in this realm for us were incredibly high, better than the call center, right? So we wanted to take that. And, even in the near term in this year, our goal has been this. It's been this vision of saying, okay, we're only in 2 touch points. Let's tackle 3 in this year. Let's take it. Let's see what we can do in the testing realm. Can we build a way that we do, if we want to bring something to market, can we use community to test out an experience, get it captured there, and then tell that team, hey, these are the improvements that a focus group in the community really want you to change, right? Can we create better loyalty and referral experiences through our advocacy and make even customers from a community and digital and social standpoint, from when we think about the touch point of use and enjoy, amplify it through its viralness on social, as well as have a community of influences and build it out of there, right? So that our customers are not only selling it for us, but they're supporting it for us. They're supporting the products for us. And then, the other touch point is ideate. This real touch point is they've been using our products. Maybe they can co-create to make them better, or maybe even co-create to make a new product in and of itself. So this is something even in the near term that we're doing to not just doing manage and support, but working with stakeholders across the board so that it is, a holistic customer journey that this practice around digital assisted is, through and throughout. So that's what we've been doing.
Well, so I find the way that you mapped out that customer journey fascinating, especially kind of how you thought through the brand and customer touch points to really extend digital as a product across so many of those touch points. And so I'm hoping that many of those on the call today have had an opportunity to do something similar, really map out that journey, or at least have access to, that customer journey, or thinking of it in this way. And if not, definitely encourage them to do so. But my question to you, Ken, would be how has that actually changed things for Verizon, or more specifically, kind of what does the future look like for your team now that you have this context? What are the next steps in your journey of digital transformation?
Great. Thank you, Chrissy. So, I think one of the first things you saw in this diagram is that, we're actually expanding ourselves in a transformative way, into other touch points. But when you think about the experience itself, we're looking at it as moving through this idea from where we thought about it as containment before, and that's a word, a buzzword used a lot when you think about digital. It's like digital containment, but that's really a cost-centric efficiency play, right? So today it's like this digital containment approach. Hey, how do we keep a customer or a consumer, bucketed into a digital experience because we know it's cheaper, right? That's the way that the digital containment, and we think that's just the first stage of just an efficiency play. There's better ways to think about it from respecting the choice of digital. When a customer chooses, going digital or using the assisted experience as part of the way that they want to interact with the brand, we should respect it. And so right now, in an assisted standpoint, we at least got it under one charter. But all of these disciplines that I have scope over, chat, social, community, the bot, and virtual, they were grown up, individualized as call deflection alternatives, within our brand. So how do we expand it beyond just a call deflection type of interaction into something that's more about how do we make this practice seamless? How does it not just say, hey, we're just trying to manage a cost call, but we're trying to generate opportunity? That's really where we're moving to today, at least from a strategic visionary standpoint, is the idea of the digital concierge. That, through artificial intelligence, through really, understanding practices and touching the personal part of a customer on social, we're able to understand them in a real-time way. And then that, this, call it concierge approach, whether it be process, people, or technology, it's routing customers not as a handoff where it feels like you're just brushing them off and pushing them somewhere, but it's almost like a white glove experience where they know they're going to get an even better handoff to, call it content, call it a widget, call it to a transaction, maybe even to an agent or even to a virtual agent or a machine that's answering their questions where they feel they're moving along and it's intuitive, seamless, it's easy. It's getting it to what they need to do and not having any frustration points. Getting rid of especially that noise of the burden of choice when we think about all these different ways that we throw support, at least on that touch point at a customer. You can reach them through the website, through self-serve, through agents. How does that concierge just go, oh, this is an issue that I think an agent should take. I'll get you there instead of you trying to hunt and peck through the website. So that's the idea that we're doing it from a visionary approach.
So, of course, the one question that I have to ask, and that I'm sure many of those on the webinar with us today want to know, is how has Sprinklr's partnership or your partnership with Sprinklr impacted or played a role in all of this?
So, I think that really kind of Sprinklr's thinking on customer experience as a holistic experience really aligns to what you're seeing here. We've aligned all these within my realm where they were all separate before. And what that really turning into is that the platform of Sprinklr is allowing us to really live this convergence here that we're seeing across people, process, and technology. So this first one around people, right? The digital assisted practice is made up of very, very similar experiences, but very separate teams. We have agents in chat. We have agents in social. We have moderators in community. We have virtual agents that are, machine-driven in another platform, right? So when you think about it from a people standpoint, how do we get that to be one team, because it is the same experience? The Sprinklr platform itself is allowing us, through its APIs, to have that seamless transfer. I talked about earlier about how we push things from wireline to wireless from a social standpoint. That in and of itself was something new for us when we put it in place, because we were having to call one another and have somebody search for where that post was to get them to answer it, right? And that would typically get that thing lost. So now we're able to just macro it or send it over there. But let's see about it from a people standpoint within the FIOS group is, maybe there is just one team that's swivel chairing or having a platform like Sprinklr that's allowing us to take SMS, allowing us to take Facebook, PMs, Twitter DMs, any other sort of, digital messaging, whether it be WhatsApp or WeChat, into one place, and they're able to manage it, and they're able to be one team and to work really seamlessly together with us. So that's one. I think the other one is really leading with community. And again, a lot of the work that we've done with Sprinklr allows them to help us interact with our communities, through the platform to answer questions, right? But we want to go beyond support, but we also want to lead with just community, not as a platform standpoint, but really as a process. Like that idea we had mentioned earlier about how do we get your customers to sell your product once you become and be advocates of it, and then help support it, right? The Sprinklr platform is allowing us to, manage content, send it out there, and then marshal a group of audiences behind it, so that against that, either that targeted content and prospects that are resonating with it, our customers are able to engage with it, and we're directing our customers towards it. And then lastly, the technology piece. So we launched a bot in Facebook Messenger, and it has been going incredibly well on how it's been received, how people are interacting with it, what the machine learning is happening, and we're understanding about our customers. But we couldn't have done that without our partners like the Facebooks out there, and especially Sprinklr, who has helped us created that hook where if somebody has a question that they have for the bot and the bot can't answer it, the Sprinklr system actually routes it to our social team to answer it. So we have agents on the other side there that are there, when the bot hits a learning piece of it to understand it, and then vice versa, right? It's helping the bot learn what it's not able to answer, so the next time it's smarter. So those are the ways that we've been working with, partners like Sprinklr to get this convergence happening and be more at the cutting edge of what experiences within my world. Lastly, I think, one of the things that really has been helping us think about where social and digital is going is the way that we look how engagement is measured. We're trying to rethink it. And we're using several listening platforms, especially Sprinklr, to understand what those trends are. So really quick, when you look at this diagram, on the left-hand side, it's just the way that we traditionally think about engagement, right? And that engagement is really 85% of it, and these are just made-up numbers for the sake of just talking through this, but let's say a good 80-90% of folks that engage with content or a brand, they're just consumers of it, right? They go on, they find the content, they read it, they find what value they need, and they go on their merry way, right? And then all of a sudden it incredibly drops off, and then there's a very, very small percentage that finds it compelling enough that they want to share it with folks. They want to take it, they want to connect it with it, they want to send it out in some way, shape, or form, right? And then, we see in our behavior that also, specifically in communities, right, that there's a very, very, very select few that are creators. They see some content that's out there, right, maybe placed by the brand or another user, and then they feel that they want to actually add their own content, or they want to create something new themselves. It's a very, very small percentage. I'm putting it as 3% here. And then the last one is the idea of influencers, that there are creators out there, and these are all subsets of one another, but this subset of influencers is that they're creating enough content out there that they have enough sway of opinion over the entire digital audience that is engaging with the brand there. So that's a very traditional way of looking at, digital engagement. But what we're thinking about it on the FIOS side is a little more edgy, because we've seen things that on the social side, especially in digital community side of it, is that the engagement is really shifting. It's shifting how heavy it was on the left, where it's all consumption, and it's moving more to the middle and to the right. And what I mean by that is that think about your own Facebook engagement, right? You don't feel any issue to grab something and share it out there with the friends, or at least just, hit the share button or hit the follow button. You do it in Twitter, you do it in Facebook, almost like regularly as part of a regular part of what you do day in and day out with content. And what that's done is that those, super communities or those, social networks like Twitter and Facebook, they've made it more of a, they've gotten us out of our comfort zone of just being consumers and putting us into this curator and creator and influencer bucket. And that to us over in the Phylus world is really the magic. How do we create experiences that keep folks on the curation and the creator side, that rate of shift that's happening there, understanding what that is. So it's not just, tracking followers and shares. That's great, right? We want to talk about, like, what's the propensity of a customer with their life cycle with us when they're engaging with our content, that they're a curator and a creator so we can keep them there. Because when we learn a lot more about them, we find out what resonates with them more, right? And we're able to, move them into a place where they're changing the dynamic of how they're engaging with us, engaging with their peers. That's why we are saying, how do we take this? This is the key for us to talk about leading with community. So that's the way that we've been thinking about it, both from a convergent sense right here with working with a platform like Sprinklr, and then even how we're measuring it and using Sprinklr to understand where that measurement is coming from a social community standpoint.
Thanks, Ken. So thank you so much, Ken. So that information was just amazing, and we've had several questions come in that I want to get to in just a moment. But before we do that, I want to take a minute with our audience and highlight a couple of things that we talked about today. So if you recall at the beginning of the webinar, I shared this slide. And you'll remember we talked about kind of two different groups of people, those who yearn for kind of the way things once were and want, seek that definition, if you will, and then those who really see opportunity to transform their business by putting customers at the heart of everything they do as part of this unenterprise world. And so for years, brands have really controlled the conversation. They've been able to take a message, broadcast it through a few reliable channels based on, functional need, and then watch as it reached its intended audience. And unfortunately, most brands, maybe even many of you on the call with us today, live in this very brand-centric ecosystem. So some of you may have areas of optimization, but for the most part, customer data, communications, those are all siloed by functional group, kind of back to Ken's the way that they rethought the structure of the team. That is exactly what we're talking about here, getting out of that just functional, optimized, brand-centric zone. And because of this, there's a chasm that really exists when you're trying to make that crossover into being very customer-centric. So there are very few brands, Verizon being one of them, that has truly begun to bridge that chasm and operate in an integrated and customer-centric framework as it relates to kind of that digital customer-first journey. And so at Sprinklr, one of the things we strive to do is actually take the Sprinklr platform and empower businesses to really unify marketing, advertising, research, commerce, and care, and take the platform and the technology to create a very integrated and collaborative system of customer engagement and create great customer experiences. And that's exactly when we were looking at that convergence slide that Ken was showing. We were talking about the convergence of people, process, and technology. And this is, as a partner, Sprinklr strives to help make this possible. And in doing so, to really give brands the ability to reach and engage and listen to current customers, prospects, those who maybe have not had contact with your brand and are potential prospects for new business or for customer care, and they have needs and they need to engage, and you want to be able to leverage that information across the entire business. But it's more than just the technology. In addition to the actual platform, we do partner with our customers to really accelerate that digital enabled customer experience transformation. We do that through joint development of digital strategies and priorities that are, linked to very tangible outcomes for your business. And we know that to do this, you have to start by understanding how customers think and act, and adapt your organization to follow that. And we have a team focused on digital services that leverage vertical industry insights. They leverage leading digital best practices, execution approaches, and even financial impact assessment to drive that actionable roadmap for your team. So, if you have questions about any of the information that you've seen today, or you want more information about how Sprinklr can help you in your brand's digital transformation, I would encourage you to go to the website, Sprinklr.com, and find more information, submit the form to get more information. You can also email us at marketingops@Sprinklr.com. So it's mkdgops@Sprinklr.com. And then, so Ken, now I think we have a few questions. If you're okay, we'll take the last few minutes here. And I'd love to start with this one. It was, what do you think it is that's pushing your customers and other brands' customers to digital as a primary way of engaging with you? So I'll let you answer this. Maybe talk a little bit here about some of the trends and drivers that you think are shaping this.
Yeah, I'm probably going to reiterate some of the things I mentioned earlier. So I think the transportability, right, the mobile piece of it. And then also, this idea of being, customer-centric around how do you personalize it, right? So one of them is, the mobility of it, how it's living in with someone's, life day in and day out, that they can take it with them. And then, how do you personalize it? That's the interesting thing with social, is that there's so much personalized information from what they do as a daily life piece of it, and interacting it with your CRM is how you see them as a customer to offer, a better real-time, but not just, we'll call it predictive experience, but like almost a preemptive experience. So things that are happening, whether it be someone's birthday or whether it be something that's happening with their business that they're struggling with the services that you need to offer them before they even ask about it, right? And I think the last one is really importantly is the one that we've always tried to do. It's really the simplification. We've seen it across the board, this burden of choice. I was talking about like the 2,000 channels that are there that exist that made it really difficult for folks to, for their viewing to consume content, and how contextualizing the viewing into like what you see in the Apples and the Rokus and the Fios of today on how you watch things is making it simplified that way and bringing it to customers like that. We see that from a support standpoint too with our customers, where we're trying to manage down if it isn't this idea of self-serve and they're hunting and pecking through the website or whatever other digital options are there. Why can't we do that ultimate like concierge experience where you just have the brand, but it's living with them? They can go to a Facebook Messenger or a WhatsApp, ask for Verizon, the concierge is there, ask your question, and it sends you to whatever content or whatever experience makes sense very quickly, and you don't have to hunt and peck and fish around for what you're looking for. So it's those trends that I think are the key ones that you have to tie together that are driving folks to digital, and they expect that from customers. They expect that from brands because customers think that you know them already so well because you're buying all their products out there, and there's so much information that's being stored about them.
Perfect. And then last thing here really is, last question I think that we have time for is, since you deal with social and work closely with Sprinklr, what do you think are the biggest untapped opportunities for brands?
From a social standpoint, this is where I really think that we would think that we had gotten past this a bit, but like social is really not a broadcast medium, right? So when we're designing, and this is both from the approach of how we do it to get our message out, as well as how we design content. I think the biggest pieces for us is understanding that it's a total experience play when you're using social, and then you have to design all the assets to live that total experience. So when you think about getting a message out there, there has to be content transformation where the content that you place out there is targeted, right? So having a Sprinklr platform that's able to leverage social from a paid social standpoint, target it out there and send it out to the right customers that will ingest it. But the content itself has all the shareability, has all the context that says it wants to network with other folks, either get it out to them or have a conversation with it. And whether that conversation is happening between customers and customers or customers and the brand is part of that expectation on the brand and Sprinklr side to make that a reality happen. So that's why the platform itself allows us to connect agents, connect with community, connect with influencers, that makes that engagement possible. So, building it that way from a social standpoint is still something I believe a lot of companies are struggling with on how do you get that practice, because content is developed somewhere else. Promotional branding is put in a different silo, right? Doing engagement with your agents or carrying that over from an advocacy play with your communities, it sits in a different place. And that's the key part from when I think about it from a digital organization that we sit in FiOS, that we've at least tried to break down those walls, create one singular team, so that that's one less barrier that we want to do with those stakeholders to connect the dots. So I think that's probably one of the key opportunities when you think about social and Sprinklr that are out there.
Awesome. So Ken, thank you so much for your time today. This has been exceptional content. I'm sure everyone on the webinar with us would agree, but we just really appreciate and really value partnering with you and your team. And for those of you who are on the webinar with us today, we will be distributing this out via email, and we hope that everyone has a great afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.